We've been telling you for some time now that there could be ways to upgrade our legacy aircraft at significantly reduced cost. And that's to use equipment that's not certificated necessarily, but has already been torture tested in experimental aircraft. This week, Warren Morningstar takes a look at replacing the most antiquated part on your engine.
Very, very different, very nice.
Dave Hirschman is always trying things to squeeze more performance, safety, and utility out of his RV3. And because the RV is an experimental, he can do things you can't do yet with a Cessna or Piper. But he thinks you should be able to.
Magnetos used to exist in cars, and they don't exist in cars anymore for some really good reasons. Airplanes have even more compelling reasons to use electronic ignitions because they fly at high and low altitudes.
It's all about timing.
Well, the Magneto is pretty old technology. It's a fixed timing point, which means it's a compromise between takeoff power, where the ignition timing is retarded to a point where there's no detonation, and advanced enough, I should say, to give efficiency during cruise flight.
Now, compromise is a dirty word nowadays, but electronic ignition gives you the best of all worlds. And Dave is going modern with electronics from eMag out of Texas.
From a pilot's perspective, what I expect to gain from this is easier starts, better lean of peak operation, more range, and less fuel flow.
But as I say, there is no free lunch, but in this case, the costs are pretty low.
It would be if you have a totally flat battery somewhere out in the field and you need to get home and you need to hand prop it. The eMag will not support that.
But each eMag has its own internal alternator, so it will work without battery power as long as the engine is turning more than 900 RPM. And it's more reliable than a Magneto.
And the Magneto has plastic gears in it, and they're just known to become embrittled over time.
The eMag has only one moving part, and it easily fits in the same space as the old Magneto. And there's another benefit.
I always get a great amount of joy when I go out and buy these replacement automotive plugs.
An aviation spark plug costs $45. The automotive plug, just $250.
And they're better because the automotive plugs provide a bigger, longer-lasting spark that burns the fuel more thoroughly and cleanly.
So why are we still limping along on antique mags? Well, because for the moment, the FAA won't let us use all electronic ignition. Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
So Tom, I understand there's at least one certified electronic ignition system out there.
Yeah, there are ways to do this, maybe not as complete as what Dave's doing with replacing both mags, but there is a system called Electro Air, which is actually on our Sweepstakes 172 that we'll be giving away next year. And what that does is replaces one mag that fires the top cylinders, the spark plugs on the top cylinders, and the traditional mag stays on the airplane, fires the bottom one. And it gives you about 80% or so of the efficiency you'd get with a dual mag system and keeps the FAA happy. And so we are making progress, in this way of getting some of the good stuff that we see in the experimental market finally finding its way over to be useful to us in our certified airplanes. Another example of that was what we saw earlier this summer with Garmin introducing the G5, the electronic attitude indicator, to replace your mechanical, cantankerous and unreliable mechanical gyros that we all fly around with. And so that's a solution too, coming out of the experimental world, finding its way into a certified airplane. So we are seeing progress.
Yes, we are. I think with Part 23 reform and now this retrofit reform, we are definitely getting traction finally.
Right, and there's a number of paths. NORSI, we've talked about that, non-enhanced or non-required safety reporting equipment, and that sort of thing is another way that we can start to see some of this new gear find its way to GA airplanes. So anyhow, it's kind of exciting times.
Good news story.